The sun was sinking low, painting the sky in hues of amber and crimson, when dust swirled up from the narrow dirt road, stirred by the rattling wheels of an old pickup truck. Inside, Clara sat in silence, her fingers gripping a worn suitcase, its edges frayed from years of use. Her gaze was fixed on the window, but the endless field stretching beyond the glass barely registered. Her mind was tangled in a web of pain, replaying the sharp sting of whispers and the weight of judgment that had chased her from the only home she'd ever known. Clara's heart ached with the memory of her small town, where every glance seemed to measure her worth by her size, her quiet demeanor, her inability to blend into their mold. The whispers had grown into a chorus of condemnation, branding her a failure, a disgrace. Now, she was being sent away, not to be fixed, but to be forgotten, cast out to a stranger's farm under the guise of teaching her humility. Her punishment was exile, dressed up as opportunity. She didn't cry, though the urge burned in her chest. Years of swallowing her pain had made her an expert at keeping tears at bay. When the truck shuddered to a stop before a weathered farmhouse, Clara's breath hitched. She stepped out, her dress clinging to her skin in the humid air, her heart pounding with dread. The man waiting for her wasn't what she'd imagined. Luke was tall, broad-shouldered, his skin bronzed from years under the sun. His clothes were simple, worn but clean, and his expression was unreadable, neither warm nor cold, just steady. He nodded toward her suitcase and gestured to the porch, his eyes free of the pity she'd braced herself for. That absence of judgment felt like a small, unexpected mercy. Behind him stood an older man, his white beard framing a face with eyes that seemed to peer straight through her, kind but piercing, as if he already knew her story. The first weeks on the farm were relentless. Clara's body, unaccustomed to labor, screamed in protest. Each dawn demanded she rise before the sun to feed animals, haul heavy pails of water, and wrestle bales of hay. Her hands blistered, her muscles burned, and sweat soaked her clothes. Luke's instructions were clear, never cruel, but he offered no coddling. He expected effort, and Clara, weighed down by the town's words, lazy, unworthy, felt every failure like a fresh wound. At night, in the dim attic room, she sat on her creaking bed, the silence amplifying the voices in her head. You don't belong. You're a burden. The shame clung to her like damp air, heavy and suffocating, but something began to shift, so slowly she barely noticed at first. Her body, though still carrying the weight the town had mocked, grew stronger. The pails didn't spill as often. She scaled fences with newfound steadiness. The aches in her limbs became badges of quiet victories. More than her body, though, it was her spirit that stirred. Away from the town's cruel eyes, Clara's own thoughts began to surface, clear and untainted. She realized how deeply she'd internalized their judgments, letting them define her worth. Here, on this sprawling farm, she wasn't the obese girl. She was just Clara, someone learning, someone trying, someone capable. One evening, as the sky blazed with a sunset so vivid it seemed to set the world on fire, Luke called her to ride with him to the far end of the property. Clara assumed it was another chore, checking fences, delivering supplies. But the truck rumbled on, past fields that stretched endlessly under the fading light. After nearly an hour, they stopped atop a hill, where the land unfurled in a breathtaking expanse, thousands of acres glowing in the dusk. Clara's heart stuttered. This wasn't just a farm, it was a kingdom of earth and sky, vast and alive. Luke watched her, his silence heavy with meaning, but he said nothing, letting the moment speak for itself. In the weeks that followed, Clara pieced together the truth. Luke, the poor farmer, was no such thing. He owned this vast empire, inherited through generations, yet chose a life of simplicity. He could have hired armies of workers, but he toiled alongside the few he trusted, valuing stewardship over show. Here, worth wasn't tied to wealth or appearance, it was rooted in character, in the quiet strength of showing up each day. For the first time, Clara felt seen, not as a collection of flaws, but as a person with something to offer. The farm became her sanctuary. She learned the rhythm of the land, how to coax life from soil, how to soothe a frightened animal, how to listen to the wind's soft secrets. Her laughter, once stifled by fear of mockery, began to spill freely. The shame that had clung to her loosened its grip, falling away like dust shaken from her boots. She started taking initiative, cooking hearty meals for the workers, mending old equipment, tending to injured creatures. Luke noticed. The old man with the white beard noticed. The land itself seemed to respond, thriving under her care. One quiet evening, Luke finally shared why he'd taken her in. The town had painted her as lazy, spoiled, a problem to be discarded. He'd seen through their lies from the start. His farm wasn't her punishment, it was her chance to rewrite her story. Sometimes, he said, his voice steady but warm, life pushes you out of places you don't belong to lead you where you do. Those words settled into Clara's soul, mending cracks she thought would never heal. Standing once more on that hilltop, gazing out at the endless acres, Clara felt a truth take root. She hadn't just been sent here to change, she'd been sent to transform everything, including herself. The town's labels no longer held power. She was strong, capable, and, for the first time, loved for who she was. The farm had given her a second chance, but she had given herself the courage to claim it.